Well, the White House finally responding to potential GOP investigations in Hunter Biden and other scandals. The administration says that it's rejecting all document requests until Republicans officially take the House majority next week. Politico pointing out that, quote, the White House cited Trump administration legal opinions that Democrats once called extreme and undemocratic. Joining me now, attorney, Republican strategist, and former Massachusetts Republican Party chair, Jennifer Nassour. Jennifer, it's great for you to be here. Your reaction, I mean, obviously we know that these investigations are coming. I think the question here is which investigations should come when Republicans take over the House?
So first of all, thank you for having me. But first of all, I would like to say that this administration was supposed to be the most transparent administration. And so far, that is not what we've seen at all. And so I think that it's very important that the Republicans are calling for this, and they're giving them a heads up. So we need to have serious conversations and have information on COVID, on why shutdowns happened, on why kids were missing school. We need to have conversations on education, why parents are being dismissed from school board meetings, why parents' views are not being taken into consideration. We need to have serious conversations about the fentanyl crisis and why over 2,000 migrants are coming over our borders every single day and infiltrating our communities, tapping our healthcare system, tapping our economy, looking into crime, how these migrants are now causing more crime in our communities. I think these are very important questions that the American people deserve answers to.
Jennifer, this is not about Hunter Biden per se, and that's what the messaging has to be for Republicans. This is about the sitting president, who at a time was a vice president, who was a candidate for president, and what he may or may not have known or benefited from. And that's the messaging that Republicans have to put forward. It's not about the son. Nobody really cares about that.
Right. No one cares about that. You know what Americans care about is American security. And again, that goes to whether it's the border issue, whether it's a laptop issue, whether it's a family business issue. That is all of importance to us because it concerns the leadership of the President of the United States. Is he paying attention to what the needs of over 30 million Americans are? 300 million Americans are? Or is he paying attention to only a small subset of people who live in his home and are members of his family?
You know, I'm glad we're talking about President Biden in particular because he's been celebrating the new year in St. Croix, staying for free at a donor's mansion. There's this new poll now from Suffolk University. 2/3 of Americans say that Biden should not seek re-election. 2/3. 65% say the country is headed in the wrong direction. So, and we should add, if he does get a second term, he would be 86 years old when he finishes term 2. Jennifer, how would you grade Biden's 2022?
I think overall, if I had to give him an overall grade, it would be somewhere around D-. We see immigration. I think if we could put F- as a new grade, that's what he gets on immigration. On crime, he gets a D. He is failing Americans in every way. The economy is in the tank. He's lying about job numbers by almost 1 million jobs. You see all the money that he's given to Ukraine. Our foreign policy, we are laughing stock across the world by giving Ukraine over $20 billion. Why aren't we using that money in the U.S.? Why aren't we using that money to help our communities in need, to make sure that we don't have fentanyl on our streets anymore? And so Biden, and it's no surprise that people would like to see some other change. Young voters have not in their lifetime seen anyone under the age of 70 run for office. We've had Trump, we've had Biden, we've had Clinton. Let's give them someone new. That should be someone who's in their 50s to 60s, someone who has business experience, someone who has government experience. That's what they're looking for, and that's what candidates and parties should be really eyeing in the next election cycle.
There was a poll earlier this week, a survey actually, and it talked about exactly that so many Americans are saying they want to see younger candidates. And it's not just about Biden or Trump. It's about Mitch McConnell. It's about Chuck Schumer. It's about Nancy Pelosi, Dianne Feinstein, who's, I think, confused is the fair word to say for her right now, according to staff members that have been talking to reporters out in San Francisco. So, I mean, if you look at this for 2024, 57% want experience, but 50% say they want them to be between 51 and 65. That's half of those surveyed. That's pretty astonishing.
It's definitely astonishing, but I think it has a lot to do with what young voters and independents see going on with this administration, the lack of transparency, the lack of leadership, and the fact that it just seems like, it is a new time and a new day for someone to come in who's actually listening to voters and American citizens, and that's what we need.
Yeah, Jennifer Nassour, you're hitting on all the points, and we shall see what the new year brings. Jennifer Nassour, thank you very much for being here.